Tonight, we will not wrestle with the mind. We will not command it to be quiet. Instead, we will open a gentle path for it to walk, a path that leads away from the noise and urgency of the day and toward the deep, quiet valley of rest. We will journey together into the heart of ancient Buddhist wisdom and discover powerful secrets that can transform your inner life. These teachings are not rules to follow. They are quiet observations about the nature of our own minds, whispers of truth that have helped soothe restless hearts for thousands of years. We will explore them through stories that speak not to the busy intellect, but to the quiet knowing that lies beneath it. We will learn to see our worries not as solid walls, but as passing mist. We will discover a peace that does not depend on our circumstances, a stillness that can hold all the beautiful chaos of our lives. Welcome to Sleepy Monk. Consider this space a sanctuary, a quiet room where you can set down the burdens you have been carrying. There is nothing here you need to fix or figure out. Simply allow these words to be a gentle current, carrying you toward the shores of deep and peaceful sleep. Our journey into deep rest begins by looking with kindness at the stories we tell ourselves. All day long, our minds are busy narrating our lives, interpreting events, and rehearsing for the future. By the time we lie down to sleep, this inner storyteller is often at its most active, replaying conversations, examining past mistakes, and crafting anxious tales about tomorrow. We can become so lost in these narratives that we forget they are just stories, mistaking them for reality itself. This is not a flaw in your character. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind to spin tales. The path to peace is not found by arguing with the storyteller, but by learning to listen with a gentle, spacious awareness, recognizing that we are the listener, not the story being told. There is an old story of a man who carried a heavy locked box on his back. He had carried it for so long that he no longer remembered a time when he was without it. The box was his constant companion, its weight a familiar pressure on his shoulders. He believed it contained all his past failures, his regrets, and his deepest sorrows. Its presence shaped his every action. He walked with a stoop, his eyes often cast toward the ground, as if the weight of his past prevented him from looking up at the sky. When he tried to rest, he could find no comfortable position, for the box was always there, digging into his back. His friends, seeing his suffering, would offer advice. "Why don't you open the box and face what's inside?" some would say. But the man was too afraid. "The contents are too terrible to look at," he would reply. "It is better to keep them locked away." Others would suggest, "Why not simply put the box down?" But this seemed impossible to him. "This box is who I am," he would insist. "Without it, I would be nothing." So he continued his journey, growing more weary with each passing year. A prisoner to a burden he believed he could neither open nor abandon. One day, his travels brought him to a small, quiet monastery where an old master resided. The master saw the man's exhaustion and the great weight he carried, and invited him to sit for tea. As they sat in the peaceful garden, The master did not ask about the box. Instead, he spoke of the clouds drifting overhead, of the way the wind moved through the bamboo, of the impermanent beauty of the present moment. For the first time in years, the man felt a sliver of peace. The master's presence was so calm, so accepting, that the man found the courage to speak of his burden. The master listened patiently, then said, "I cannot tell you what to do with your box, but perhaps you would be willing to simply set it on the ground beside you, just for the duration of this cup of tea." Hesitantly, the man agreed. With great effort, he unstrapped the heavy box and placed it on the mossy ground. The relief was immediate and profound. He felt a lightness in his shoulders he had not known was possible. As he drank his tea, he felt the sun on his face, unburdened. When the tea was finished, he looked at the box, now separate from him, and a new kind of curiosity arose, stronger than his fear. He found a small key on the chain around his neck, one he had forgotten was there, and with a trembling hand, he unlocked the box. He lifted the heavy lid, expecting to see all the dark and terrible things he had imagined for so long, but the box was completely empty. There was nothing inside but the faint scent of old wood. For a moment he was confused. Then a slow smile spread across his face, and he began to laugh, a deep, rolling laugh of liberation. The weight he had been carrying all those years had not been the weight of his past, but the weight of his belief in its power. This story speaks directly to the nature of the burdens that keep us awake at night. Our worries, our regrets, our anxieties about the future, they feel so heavy, so solid, so real. We carry them around in the locked box of our mind, convinced that their contents are too terrible to examine and that putting them down is impossible. We believe, like the man in the story, that these burdens are an essential part of who we are. The teaching of Zen invites us to see that these stories are not as solid as they appear. They are mental habits, patterns of thought, repeated narratives, and the weight comes not from the events of the past themselves, but from our continuous act of carrying them into the present moment. The past is over. The events are gone. All that remains is the story we keep telling ourselves. The future has not yet arrived. All that exists of it are the anxious tales we spin in our imagination. The suffering is not in the reality, but in the narrative. This is a profoundly hopeful truth. If the burden is a story and not a solid thing, it means we do not have to be its prisoner. We can learn to set it down. We can find the key of awareness, unlock the box, and discover that what we feared was so powerful is, in the end, only thought. This realization does not mean that painful things have not happened. It means that our suffering is not the event itself, but our relationship to the event. By changing that relationship, by loosening our grip on the story, we can find a freedom and lightness we may have forgotten was possible. To practice setting down your own heavy box, you can begin with a gentle visualization. As you lie here, allow your awareness to settle in your body. Now, bring to mind a worry or a story that has been weighing on you. It could be a concern about work, a regret from your past, or an anxiety about the future. Do not get lost in the details of the story. Simply acknowledge its presence and notice how it feels in your body. Notice the tension, the contraction, the feeling of weight it creates. Now, imagine that this entire story, with all its thoughts and feelings, is contained within a physical object. It could be a heavy stone, a locked chest, or a backpack filled with rocks. In your mind's eye, see yourself carrying this object. Feel its weight on your shoulders, in your hands, or on your heart. Acknowledge that you have been carrying this for a long time. Now, with a conscious act of intention, visualize yourself setting this burden down. You might imagine placing the heavy stone on the ground beside you. You might see yourself unbuckling the straps of the backpack and letting it slide gently to the floor. As you do this in your imagination, take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, physically allow your body to soften, releasing the tension as if you have just set down a real physical weight. You can say to yourself, just for tonight, I can set this down. I do not need to carry this while I rest. The story will likely try to reclaim you. The mind will want to pick the burden back up. That is its habit. When this happens, simply repeat the process. Acknowledge the story, see it as the heavy object, and gently, patiently, set it down again. Each time you do this, you are weakening an old habit and strengthening a new one, the habit of letting go. You are reminding yourself that you are not your burden. You are the one who has been carrying it, and therefore, you are the one who has the power to set it down. We continue our journey by exploring the nature of effort. Having seen how we can set down the heavy stories of the mind, we can now look at the subtle way we approach rest itself. We often treat sleep as a goal to be achieved, a problem to be solved through force of will. This turns our bed into a battlefield where we struggle against our own wakefulness. This striving, this effort to make sleep happen, is a form of tension that is the very opposite of the surrender that rest requires. The wisdom of Zen introduces us to a more graceful way, the art of trusting the natural rhythm of things. There is a story of a young gardener who was given a small plot of land and a collection of rare and beautiful flower seeds. He was told that these flowers, if they bloomed, would produce a fragrance that could bring peace to the entire village. The young gardener was filled with a sense of great purpose and responsibility. He planted the seeds with immense care, and then he began to wait. But his waiting was not patient. It was anxious and filled with effort. Every morning, he would rush to the garden to see if the seeds had sprouted. He would poke at the soil, trying to see if anything was happening beneath the surface. He believed that the more he worried and the more he hovered, the faster the plants would grow. When the first green shoots finally appeared, his anxiety only increased. He was convinced they were not growing fast enough. I must help them, he thought. He would gently pull on the tiny sprouts, trying to stretch them taller. He would cup his hands and blow warm air on them, believing his own breath could speed their progress. He rearranged the stones in the garden 12 times a day, convinced there must be a perfect arrangement that would encourage the flowers to bloom. His constant interference, born from a desire to help, was actually stressing the young plants. Their leaves were pale and their stems were weak. One day, the old woman who lived at the edge of the village, who was known for her magnificent garden, came to see his progress. She saw the young man frantically tending his struggling plants, his face a mask of worried effort. She watched him for a long time in silence. Then she said, "You love these flowers very much, but you are loving them to death." The young gardener was confused. "But I am doing everything I can to make them grow," he protested. "I give them all of my attention." The old woman smiled. "You are not giving them attention," she said gently. "You are giving them your anxiety. A plant does not grow because you pull on it. It grows because you provide the right conditions for it to grow on its own. It needs good soil, the right amount of water, and the warmth of the sun. But most of all, it needs you to trust it. It needs you to leave it alone so it can do what it knows how to do. Your only job is to create a safe and nourishing space, and then to wait with a patient heart. The blooming is not your work, it is the work of the flower." The young gardener's story is the story of our struggle with sleep. We are the anxious gardener, and sleep is the delicate flower. We cannot force it to bloom by pulling on its petals. In fact, our very effort to control the process is what prevents it from unfolding naturally. The checking of the clock, the frustration with our wakefulness, the mental calculations of how much sleep we are losing, these are all forms of pulling on the sprouts. They create a state of mental and physical arousal that makes surrender impossible. The wisdom of the old gardener invites us to a profound shift in our approach. Our job is not to fall asleep. Our job is to create the conditions that are most conducive to rest. Sleep is the natural result of these conditions, a blooming that happens on its own when we stop interfering. This is a practice of profound trust. It requires us to trust in the deep wisdom of our own bodies, which have an innate capacity for rest and renewal. We must trust that, like the seed, our body knows exactly what to do if we simply provide it with the right environment. A quiet space, a comfortable surface, and most importantly, a mind that is not at war with the present moment. By letting go of the goal, we allow the process to unfold. By ceasing our efforts to control, we open the door to natural surrender. To practice becoming a wise gardener for your own rest, begin by consciously letting go of the need for any particular outcome. Your only intention for this time is to provide your body and mind with the best possible conditions for rest. That is all. The outcome is not your responsibility. Start by tending to the soil of your body. Gently bring your awareness to the physical sensations of being here. Feel the texture of the sheets against your skin. Notice the temperature of the air. Feel the gentle support of the mattress beneath you. These simple, direct sensations are the good soil. They anchor you in the present reality, away from the anxious stories of the mind. Now, offer your body the gentle water of your breath. Do not try to breathe in any special way. Simply follow the natural, easy rhythm of your breathing. Feel the breath as it enters and feel it as it leaves. Each breath is an act of nourishment, a gentle watering of your nervous system, inviting it to soften and release. Finally, offer the warmth of the sun, which is your own kind attention. As you lie here, whatever arises in your experience, meet it with a warm and accepting awareness. If your body feels tense, just notice the tension with kindness. If your mind is busy, notice the business with a gentle patience. You are not trying to fix anything. You are simply creating a warm, safe, accepting space. You can use a silent mantra to support this attitude. As you breathe in, you might say to yourself, "I am creating the conditions for rest." As you breathe out, the rest will come in its own time. You are the gardener. You have planted the seeds of your intention to rest. You have prepared the soil of your body. You have watered it with your breath and warmed it with your kindness. Now your work is done. All that is left is to trust the flower. Let us pause here for a moment. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breath, a quiet anchor in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you might be holding. Let the edges of your day melt into this quiet space of rest. Our journey now brings us to the importance of finding our center. So much of our modern life pulls our energy upwards and outwards. Our attention is constantly drawn out to screens, to sounds, to the demands of others. Our mental energy gets concentrated in our heads, caught in the endless loops of thinking, analyzing, and worrying. This can leave us feeling ungrounded, scattered, and top-heavy, like a tree with no roots. At night, when the external distractions fall away, this feeling of being uncentered can amplify, turning into a free-floating anxiety. We feel untethered, adrift in a sea of thoughts. The wisdom traditions of Zen teach that true stability and calm are found not by engaging with the chaos in the head, but by dropping our awareness down into the quiet, solid center of the body. There's a story of a young archer who had achieved flawless technical skill. In his own courtyard, his aim was perfect. He could hit the center of a distant target every time and could even perform the legendary feat of splitting his first arrow with a second. He was proud of his skill and believed himself to be a great master. Hearing of an old Zen master who lived high in the mountains and was also renowned for his archery, the young man decided to challenge him to prove his own superiority. He found the master's simple home and, with great confidence, demonstrated his incredible skill, splitting one arrow with the next. "There," the young man said with pride. "Let us see if you can match that." The old master simply smiled and motioned for the young man to follow him. He led him up a steep mountain path, higher and higher, until they came to a deep, terrifying chasm. A single, weathered log lay across the gap, serving as a precarious bridge. Far below, the bottom of the chasm was lost in shadow. Without a word, the old master calmly walked out to the center of the swaying log. He drew his bow, aimed at a tree on the far side, and let his arrow fly. It struck the tree with a clean, direct hit. Then he walked back to solid ground. Now, "It is your turn," he said. The young archer approached the edge of the chasm and looked down. A wave of vertigo and terror washed over him. His mouth went dry, and his legs began to tremble. The technical skill that had made him so confident moments before seemed utterly useless in the face of this primal fear. He tried to step onto the log, but his body refused. His hands shook so violently he could not even hold his bow steady, let alone aim it. The master watched this display with compassion. "You have great skill with the bow," he said gently, "but you have little skill with the mind that lets loose the shot." The archer's journey to the chasm is the journey we take every night when we lie down to sleep. Our daily life is the practice courtyard. We may develop great skill at managing our lives, at being productive and efficient. But at night, when we stand at the edge of the great chasm of the unknown, when the familiar structures of the day fall away, we can be overcome by the terror of our own minds, the free-floating anxiety, the deep existential worries, the fears we keep at bay during the day. All of these can arise. Our technical skills for living are useless here. We cannot manage our way to peace. We cannot achieve rest. The master's wisdom points to a different kind of skill, the skill of the mind. It is the ability to find a center, a place of stability, even when standing on a swaying log over a deep abyss. This center is not an idea. It is a felt sense of groundedness within the body. When our awareness is rooted in this center, the storm of fearful thoughts can still blow, but it no longer has the power to throw us off balance. We are no longer a leaf in the wind. We are the mountain itself, unshakable and present, allowing the weather of the mind to pass without being disturbed by it. This is the foundation of true peace, a stability that does not depend on our external circumstances being safe or our internal circumstances being calm. To cultivate this unshakable presence, you can begin by bringing your awareness to the simple fact of your body's weight. As you lie here, feel the pull of gravity. It is a constant, steady, reliable force. It is holding you. You do not need to hold on. Let your attention be drawn to the heaviest parts of your body. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Allow it to be truly heavy, to release completely. Feel the weight of your shoulders sinking into the mattress. Feel the weight of your hips and your legs. Imagine that with every exhalation, you are letting go just a little bit more, releasing your weight into the support that is beneath you. You can visualize that you are a great stone resting on the quiet earth. The winds of thought may blow around you, but they cannot move you. You are solid, you are stable, you are still. Or you can imagine that you are a great tree, and with each exhalation, you are sending roots down, deep into the earth. Down through the mattress, through the floor, deep into the quiet, dark, stable earth. Feel this connection to something solid and vast. You are not a small, anxious mind floating in the dark. You are a mountain. You are a tree. You are rooted and grounded in the very center of your own being. Let this feeling of stability be your refuge. No matter what storms may pass through your mind, you can always return to this felt sense of groundedness. This is your center, and it is always available to you. Having found a sense of groundedness in our center, we can now look at the contents of our minds with a softer, kinder gaze. So often, what keeps us awake at night is the voice of our own inner judge. As the world goes quiet, this internal critic can become loud, replaying the day's events and pointing out every mistake, every perceived failure, every moment we fell short of our own ideals. We lie in bed and audit our performance, holding ourselves up to a standard of perfection that we would never demand of a friend. This relentless self-criticism is exhausting. It creates a state of internal conflict that is the enemy of rest. Zen wisdom offers a powerful antidote to this poison of perfectionism. It is the gentle and profound teaching of embracing our own ordinary, imperfect, and genuine nature. There is the story of a man who was born the eldest son of a wealthy and respected scholar. He was expected to follow in his father's footsteps, to live a life of refinement, prestige, and intellectual accomplishment. But this life felt like a cage to him. Upon his father's death, he inherited a great fortune, but the wealth felt like a heavy burden. So he did something that shocked everyone. He gave away every last coin, every piece of silk, every precious object. He changed his name to Great Fool and began to wander the country as a simple monk, seeking a truth that wealth and status could not provide. For years, he lived in extreme simplicity. His robe was made of discarded patches, and he owned only a single bowl, which he used for everything: for eating, for washing, for mixing his ink for calligraphy. To the world, he looked like a failure, a man who had lost everything. But Great Fool had discovered a profound joy. He loved what was simple, what was real, what was genuine. Most of all, he loved the company of children because they had not yet learned to be false. He would spend his days playing hide and seek with them in the temple grounds. He disliked what he called the poetry of poets and the cuisine of cooks, meaning he disliked the self-conscious, performative quality of people who were too aware of their own skills. He preferred the simple, honest taste of a plain rice ball and the spontaneous song of a child. One day, a visitor asked him why, after achieving a deep spiritual realization, he chose to live such a foolish and ordinary life. Great Fool simply smiled. "When you try to be special," he said, "you become a prisoner. When you are willing to be a fool, you become free." Great Fool's wisdom is a deep and healing medicine for the modern mind, which is so often afflicted with the disease of spiritual pride and the need to appear special. We want to be good at meditation. We want to be seen as compassionate, as wise, as having it all together. This creates a subtle but constant performance anxiety. We are always on stage, and our inner critic is the harshest judge in the audience. The teaching of Great Fool is an invitation to come down from the stage. It is the permission to be ordinary. It is the profound realization that our true nature is not something we need to achieve or perform. It is already here in our simple, flawed, genuine humanity. True wisdom is not about becoming a perfect, flawless statue of a saint. It is about becoming like Great Fool, so comfortable in your own skin that you are not afraid to be seen as simple, as ordinary, even as a fool. This is not a lowering of our standards. It is a radical act of self-acceptance. It is ending the inner war. When we can accept our own foolishness, our own mistakes, our own imperfections, with a gentle and loving heart, the voice of the inner critic begins to lose its power. We discover a peace that is not based on our performance, but on our very being. To practice embracing your own genuine, imperfect self, you can begin by bringing to mind the character of Great Fool. Imagine his simple patched robe, his single bowl, his joyful and unself-conscious presence with the children. Now, gently bring your awareness to a part of yourself that you often judge. Perhaps it is a habit you dislike, a personality trait you wish were different, or a memory of a time you acted in a way you now regret. See this part of yourself clearly. Feel the familiar pang of self-criticism that might arise. Now, instead of turning away in judgment, imagine you could look at this part of yourself through Great Fool's eyes. Can you see the simple humanity in it? Can you see it not as a flaw to be eliminated, but as part of your authentic, complicated, and genuine being? Instead of harsh criticism, you can offer a silent phrase of acceptance. You might say to yourself, "This too is part of my human journey," or "I can be with this part of myself with kindness," or you can simply offer it a gentle, inner smile, the kind of smile Great Fool might have offered a child who had just stumbled and fallen. You are not condoning harmful behavior. You are simply letting go of the self-hatred that creates so much inner turmoil. Just for tonight, you can give yourself permission to be nobody special. You do not need to be enlightened. You do not need to be perfect. You can let go of all the images of who you think you should be and simply rest in the quiet truth of who you are, a simple, ordinary, and perfectly imperfect human being. In this acceptance, there is profound rest. Let's pause here again, just for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs completely, and then release it with a gentle sigh. Feel your body sinking a little deeper into the surface that supports it. Let go of the day. Let go of the need to be anywhere else. You are here in this quiet space, and that is enough. As we learn to accept our own imperfections, we can turn our attention to one of the most fundamental truths of existence, a truth that, once embraced, can dissolve a vast amount of our anxiety. It is the teaching of impermanence. Our minds instinctively try to create a sense of solid ground in a world that is constantly shifting. We cling to the things we love, whether it is a moment of happiness, a cherished relationship, or our own youth and health, desperately wishing they would last forever. This clinging is a source of profound tension. We live with a subtle, underlying fear of loss. At night, this can manifest as anxiety about the future, a worry that the stability we have now might be taken away. We also cling to our pain, our identities, and our stories, afraid to let them go. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence is not a pessimistic declaration that everything fades. It is a liberating invitation to stop resisting the natural, graceful flow of life. There is a story of a young meditation student who approached his practice with tremendous sincerity and effort. For several weeks, however, he found himself struggling. His mind felt scattered, His body ached, and every time he sat on his cushion, he felt only frustration. One morning, unable to bear it any longer, he sought out his teacher, who was peacefully weeding the temple garden. "Teacher," the student said, his voice full of despair, "my practice is horrible. My mind is a storm of distraction, my legs hurt, and I feel no peace at all. I am failing completely." The old teacher looked up from the soil, his eyes calm and clear. He listened to the student's complaints without judgment, then said simply, "It will pass." The student was a little taken aback by this brief response, but having nothing else to say, he returned to his practice. Over the next week, a change began to occur. The distractions started to lessen, his body settled into the posture, and moments of deep, beautiful calm began to appear in his meditation. By the end of the week, his practice felt wonderful. He was filled with a sense of blissful awareness and clarity he had never known. Excited, he rushed back to find his teacher, who was now sweeping leaves in the courtyard. "Teacher!" he exclaimed, his face glowing. "My meditation is wonderful. My mind is clear. My body is comfortable, and I am experiencing the most beautiful states of consciousness." The teacher paused his sweeping, looked at the joyful student with the very same calm expression as before, and said again, "It will pass." In that moment, the student understood. The teacher's simple, consistent wisdom is one of the most profound teachings we can receive. Life is a constant flow of changing experiences. Nothing, whether pleasant or painful, lasts forever. We spend so much of our energy engaged in a futile struggle against this basic reality. When we experience something unpleasant, like the student's initial struggles in meditation, our mind resists. We want it to go away. We add a layer of suffering on top of the pain by judging it, hating it, and wishing it were different. This resistance is like trying to hold back the tide with your hands. It is exhausting and it does not work. The wisdom of "it will pass" is a deep comfort in these moments. It reminds us that no matter how dark the storm, it is, by its very nature, a temporary weather pattern. It does not define the sky. Knowing this, we can find the strength to endure difficult times with more patience and less fear. We can soften our resistance and allow the experience to move through us, knowing it is just a visitor, not a permanent resident. The other side of the teaching is even more subtle and just as powerful. When we experience something wonderful, a moment of joy, a feeling of peace, a great success, our mind immediately tries to cling to it. We think, "This is it. I want to feel this way forever." This grasping, this fear of losing the good experience, ironically, pulls us out of the direct enjoyment of the moment itself. We stop savoring the sweetness because we are too busy trying to build a cage around it. The wisdom of "it will pass" is a gentle reminder to hold our joys lightly. It is not a cynical warning, but an invitation to appreciate the precious, fleeting beauty of this moment all the more. When we know that the beautiful sunset will fade, we can watch it with our full, grateful attention. When we know that this feeling of peace is temporary, we can inhabit it completely without taking it for granted.
This teaching on impermanence is the key to finding a deep and abiding peace that is not dependent on our circumstances. It is the wisdom of the river which flows around every obstacle and never tries to hold on to any particular part of the landscape.
To integrate this liberating wisdom into your being, you can use your own breath as your teacher. The breath is a perfect embodiment of impermanence. It is in constant flow. Every inhalation is a birth. There is a brief pause. Every exhalation is a death, a letting go, which creates the space for the next inhalation to arise. You cannot hold on to the breath. To try to hold the in-breath is to suffocate. To live is to participate in this continuous rhythm of arising and passing away. As you lie here, bring your full, gentle attention to this rhythm. Feel the entire journey of one in-breath, from its beginning to its end, and then feel the entire journey of one out-breath. Notice the subtle, constant change. There is nothing to hold on to. Simply rest in this flow. This is the rhythm of the universe, and it is happening within you in every moment. Now, you can extend this practice to the events of your day. As you continue to breathe gently, allow the moments of your day to drift through your mind. A conversation, a meal, a moment of frustration, a moment of ease. See each one as a cloud that appeared in the sky of your mind. As you inhale, you can acknowledge the memory. As you exhale, you can practice letting it go. You are not trying to erase it or push it away. You are simply acknowledging that its time is over. It has passed. Let your exhale be a gentle release of your grip on the past. This practice is particularly helpful for pleasant moments that your mind wants to cling to, and for unpleasant moments that your mind wants to resist. With each breath out, you are training the mind in the graceful art of letting go. You are learning to be like the open sky, allowing all the clouds of experience to drift by without needing to capture a single one. This is freedom. This is peace. This is the wisdom that allows you to rest deeply, at ease with the beautiful, ever-changing flow of life. As we come to accept the flowing, impermanent nature of our experience, we are led to an even more subtle and profound insight. We often feel overwhelmed by our own minds. The sheer volume of thoughts, memories, worries, and plans can feel like a dense, crowded, and sometimes suffocating inner world. We experience our thoughts as being very solid and very real, and most importantly, we experience them as being me. We believe that we are the thinker of the thoughts, the voice in our head. This identification can make us feel trapped, as if we are locked in a small room with a relentless commentator. Zen practice invites us to question this assumption, to look for the space behind the content, the silence that holds the noise. This is the gateway to understanding the liberating wisdom of emptiness. The ancient sage Chuang Tzu once had a dream. In his dream, he was a butterfly, a beautiful, carefree butterfly, fluttering from one flower to another. He was so completely the butterfly that he had no memory at all of being Chuang Tzu, the man. He felt the sun on his wings, tasted the nectar of the flowers, and danced on the breeze. He was perfectly happy, being nothing other than a butterfly. Then, suddenly, he woke up. And there he was, undeniably Chuang Tzu, lying in his bed. But as he became fully awake, a profound question arose in his mind. A question so deep, it shook the very foundations of his reality. He sat up and wondered, was I Chuang Tzu dreaming I was a butterfly, or am I now a butterfly dreaming that I am Chuang Tzu? The question was not a clever riddle. It was a genuine inquiry into the nature of identity. If the experience of being a butterfly felt completely real and all-consuming while it was happening, how could he be so certain that his current experience of being a man was any more solid, any more true? Which was the dream, and which was the reality? Or was it possible that both were a kind of dream? This beautiful story points to one of the most liberating and often misunderstood teachings in all of Buddhism, the teaching of not-self, or anatta. Like Chuang Tzu, we are constantly shifting between different states of identity. When we are at work, we are the professional. When we are with our family, we are the parent or the child. When we are sick, we are the patient. When we dream, we can become anyone or anything at all. Each of these identities feels real while we are in it. But which one is the real you? The teaching of not-self suggests that none of them are. It suggests that what we call our self is not a solid, unchanging thing, but a collection of constantly changing processes, thoughts, feelings, memories, roles, and sensations. It is more like a story than a stone, a process rather than a person. This can sound frightening at first. If there is no solid me, who am I? But this is not a teaching of annihilation. It is a teaching of immense freedom. If you are not a fixed, solid thing, it means you are not permanently defined by your past. You are not trapped in your current identity as an anxious person or a person who is not good enough. These are just temporary roles, temporary dreams, like the butterfly. The you that you work so hard to protect, defend, and improve is not as solid as it seems. Realizing this is like putting down the heaviest burden you carry. The constant project of managing and polishing the self can finally be relaxed. We can stop being so identified with our thoughts and moods. They are just weather patterns passing through the vast sky of our awareness. We are the sky, not the weather. To get a felt sense of this freedom, you can practice a gentle meditation on unidentifying. As you lie here, resting comfortably, simply notice some of the labels you might be carrying from your day. Perhaps you are wearing the identity of a tired person, or a person who had a difficult day, or a person who is worried about tomorrow. Just notice these labels as thoughts, as stories. Acknowledge them gently. Now, in your mind, you can perform a simple ritual of letting go. You can imagine that each of these identities is a piece of clothing. You can see yourself gently taking off the heavy coat of the worrier and setting it aside. You can imagine unlacing the tight shoes of the planner and letting your feet be free. Just for tonight, you do not need to wear these costumes. As you set each identity aside, ask yourself, what remains? Do not search for a clever answer. Just rest in the quiet, simple feeling of presence that is left. This quiet, aware presence is not a role. It has no name and no story. It is the silent witness to all the changing costumes. It is the dreamer that dreams of being both a man and a butterfly. By gently loosening your grip on who you think you are, you can rest as what you truly are. A spacious, peaceful, and free awareness. Just for tonight, let go of the exhausting work of being you. There is nothing you need to live up to. There is no one you need to be. Simply rest. Let's pause here again, just for a moment. Feel the quality of this present moment. It is fresh, new, unburdened by the stories of the past. Take a breath into this freshness. As you breathe out, let go of any old identities. You are here, and you are free to begin anew. When we learn to see the vast, empty space of our own awareness, we realize it is not a cold void, but a space of infinite potential. It is a space that can hold not only our thoughts and worries, but also a boundless capacity for warmth, kindness, and connection. So often, our suffering makes us feel contracted and isolated. We become trapped in the small, lonely world of our own problems. Our hearts, in an attempt to protect themselves, can grow hard and closed. At night, this feeling of separation can be especially acute. The wisdom of the Buddhist path teaches that the ultimate healing for this sense of isolation is the intentional cultivation of compassion for ourselves and for all others. It is the practice of recognizing that we are all interconnected and that an open heart is a peaceful heart. There is a story of a student who had been practicing with his master for many years. He was sincere and dedicated, yet he felt a persistent, low-level anxiety. He found himself constantly striving to be a better student, to achieve deeper insights, to accomplish things that would make his family and his teacher proud of him. One evening, he found the courage to speak to his master about this. "Master," he said, "I feel I am always seeking approval. I want my family to be proud of me so they will have more reason to love me. And I want to feel their love so that I can finally feel that I have a reason to love myself. Is this a common problem?" The master looked at his student with eyes full of tenderness. "It is the most common journey of all," he said. "We look outside for a reflection of our own worthiness. We believe we must earn the right to feel at peace with who we are. But one day, I realized I could ask a different question. I asked myself, what if I could bypass all that? What if my happiness no longer depended on whether others approved of my choices? What if my own sense of worth could be something I generate from within, as constant and as natural as my own heartbeat?" The master continued, his voice soft in the twilight. "I began to see that my desire for their pride was a conditioned habit, like a firefly that appears in the darkness. I could watch it flicker, but I no longer had to believe it was the sun. I learned to respect the opinions of others, but I no longer gave them so much weight. They became like the weather, sometimes pleasant, sometimes stormy, but they no longer determined the climate of my heart. And I have never felt so free. The love I had been searching for from others was simply waiting to be discovered inside myself. The Master's discovery is the very essence of compassion, or karuna. It begins with the radical act of turning our kindness inward. Compassion is not pity, which looks down from above. Compassion is empathy, the ability to feel with another, to recognize our shared vulnerability. It is the sincere wish for all beings to be free from their suffering. This profound state of heart is often paired with its close sibling, metta, or loving kindness, which is the sincere wish for all beings to be happy and well. Together, they are the two wings of the bird of awakening. The intellect and wisdom are one wing, but without the other wing of compassion, we cannot fly. This practice is the most powerful antidote to the states of mind that keep us from rest. Fear, anger, judgment, and loneliness. A heart that is judging itself and others is a tense, contracted heart. A heart that is radiating kindness is a soft, open, and relaxed heart. Importantly, this practice must always begin with ourselves. We cannot offer water from a dry well. Many of us find it easier to feel compassion for a suffering animal or a friend than we do for ourselves. We meet our own pain, our own failures, our own anxiety with harshness and impatience. The practice of self-compassion is the radical act of turning this warmth inward. It is learning to hold our own suffering with the same tenderness we would offer to a loved one. When we can do this, when we can be a true friend to ourselves, the feeling of anxious isolation begins to dissolve, and a deep sense of peace can take root. To begin watering the seeds of compassion in your own heart, you can practice a simple loving-kindness meditation as you prepare for sleep. This practice is not about forcing a feeling, but about gently setting an intention. The sincere wish is what matters. Find a comfortable position and, if it feels natural, place a hand over the center of your chest. This physical gesture can be a reminder of tenderness. Begin by offering the kindness to yourself. Silently, slowly, repeat these phrases in your mind, letting them be a gentle wish, a soft prayer. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. As you repeat the phrases, just allow whatever feelings are there to be there. If you feel resistance or unworthiness, just notice that with kindness too. You are simply planting seeds in the soil of your heart. Continue for a few minutes, offering this unconditional goodwill to your own being. After a while, bring to mind someone you love easily, a friend, a family member, a pet. Picture them in your mind and begin to direct the phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Feel the natural warmth in your heart for this being, and let the words be carried on that warmth. Then, if you feel able, you can expand the circle. You can bring to mind a neutral person, perhaps a neighbor or a co-worker.
offer them the same wishes. Then you can think of all the people in your home, in your city, in your country. Finally, you can extend this wish to all beings everywhere, without exception. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. This practice gently dissolves the walls of separation we build around our hearts. It connects us to our shared humanity and our shared wish for peace. It is a soft and gentle way to fall asleep, wrapped not in the cold blanket of worry, but in the boundless warmth of an open and loving heart. As we learn to hold our own being with warmth and kindness, we can approach our minds with a new sense of possibility. Often, our inner world can feel like a chaotic wilderness, a tangled jungle of thoughts and emotions over which we have no control. We feel we are at the mercy of whatever mood or worry happens to arise, especially in the vulnerable quiet of the night. This feeling of helplessness is a great source of anxiety. But the Buddha's teachings offer a different perspective. They teach that we are not the helpless victims of our minds. We are its gardeners. We may not be able to control the weather or stop every weed seed from blowing in on the wind, but we absolutely have the power to cultivate the soil, to nourish the plants we wish to grow, and to gently remove the weeds that choke the life from the garden. This is the practice of cultivating skillful states of mind. There is a story of a young queen who inherited a kingdom that was famous for its magnificent royal garden. But the garden had been neglected for decades. When the queen first walked into it, her heart sank. What was once a place of beauty and harmony was now a dense thicket of thorny, invasive weeds. Poisonous vines choked the life out of once beautiful rose bushes. Prickly shrubs blocked the paths. The fruit trees were weak and barren, starved of sunlight. The queen's first instinct was to despair. The task of restoring the garden seemed impossible. She called for the oldest royal gardener, a woman who had served the queen's grandmother and still held the memory of the garden's former glory. "This is hopeless," the young queen said, gesturing to the chaos. "We would need an army to fight all these weeds." The old gardener smiled. "Fighting is part of it, Your Majesty," she said. "But the secret to a beautiful garden is not just in what you pull out. It is in what you put in. It is about understanding what makes the weeds grow and what makes the flowers flourish." For many months, the old gardener taught the young queen the art of wise gardening. She taught her that the thorny weeds thrived in hard, dry soil and harsh, direct sunlight. But the flowers and fruit trees needed soft, rich soil, gentle water, and the dappled light of the afternoon. So their work was twofold. Yes, they spent time patiently and persistently pulling the weeds, one by one. But more importantly, they spent time changing the conditions of the garden itself. They carried in rich soil to nourish the roots of the fruit trees. They watered the rose bushes with care. They planted larger trees to create shade, making the environment less hospitable for the harsh weeds and more welcoming for the delicate flowers. Slowly, miraculously, the garden began to transform. As the flowers and trees grew stronger, they naturally began to crowd out the weeds. The garden's own vitality
became its best defense. Soon, the garden was once again a place of profound peace, beauty, and abundance, not because every single weed was gone forever, but because the flowers were so well nourished that they had become the garden's dominant nature. Our mind is this royal garden. The unskillful states of mind are the thorny weeds. These are states like anger, resentment, jealousy, greed, and anxiety. They are called unskillful, not because they are morally evil, but because, quite simply, they lead to suffering for ourselves and for others. They create a thorny, painful, inner landscape. The skillful states are the beautiful flowers and fruit trees. These are states like kindness, compassion, generosity, patience, gratitude, and calm. They are called skillful because they lead directly to happiness, peace, and well-being. Just like the young queen, we can often feel that our minds are hopelessly overgrown with the weeds of worry and fear. We feel that we are engaged in an endless, exhausting battle against them. The wisdom of the gardener teaches us a more skillful way. We must learn to recognize the difference between the weeds and the flowers in our own minds. And our practice becomes twofold. We gently and patiently learn to withdraw our energy and attention from the weeds. A worry about the future is a thorny weed. When we notice it, instead of getting entangled in its story and watering it with our focused attention, we can gently acknowledge it and then turn our minds elsewhere. This is like pulling the weed. It is not an act of aggression, but a simple and firm act of non-engagement. But even more powerfully, we must actively nourish the flowers. We must consciously and intentionally cultivate the skillful states. We can't just wait for gratitude or kindness to spontaneously appear. We must create the conditions for them to grow. This is a profoundly hopeful and empowering teaching. It means that the quality of our inner life is not random. It is a direct result of what we choose to cultivate. To practice being a wise gardener of your mind, as you settle into rest, you can use a simple two-step process. The first step is to gently pull a weed. Notice if there is a particularly persistent weed of thought active in your mind right now. Perhaps it is a worry about a problem at work, or a resentment about something someone said. See this thought pattern clearly as a thorny weed that is causing you suffering. You do not need to fight it or hate it. Simply see it for what it is. Then, make a conscious, gentle choice not to water it. Withdraw your attention from its storyline. You can say to yourself, "This is not a helpful path for my mind to take right now. I will not follow it." You might have to do this many times, just as a gardener has to pull the same type of weed over and over. Be patient and kind with yourself. The second and more important step is to consciously water a flower. Actively bring to mind something that represents a skillful state. The easiest and most powerful practice for this is gratitude. Scan through your day and find one small thing for which you can feel genuinely grateful. It does not have to be something big. It could be the taste of your morning coffee, a kind word from a friend, the feeling of the sun on your skin, or simply the comfort of your own bed right now. Hold this small memory in your mind. Do not just think about it. Allow yourself to feel the feeling of gratitude in your body. Let it be a warmth in your chest, a softening in your face. Water this seed of gratitude with your full attention for a minute or two. This simple act does more than just distract you from your worries. It actively changes the environment of your mind. It shifts you out of a state of lack and anxiety and into a state of sufficiency and peace. It creates the rich, fertile soil from which a restful night's sleep can grow. You are the gardener. You have the wisdom and the power to cultivate a garden of deep peace within your own heart and mind. Let us pause here just for a moment. Feel the quality of this present moment. It is fresh, new, unburdened by the echoes of the past. Take a breath into this freshness. As you breathe out, let go of any old stories. You are here, and you are free to begin anew. The journey we have taken so far, from observing the mind to cultivating the heart, leads us to a central and most vital sanctuary of peace. So much of our inner turmoil arises from one simple fact: we are very rarely ever fully present. Our minds are constantly living in one of two places, the past or the future. We drift into the past, replaying conversations, nursing old hurts, or dwelling on moments of regret. Or we project ourselves into the future, rehearsing for challenges, worrying about what might go wrong, or spinning out endless plans. We are almost never simply here, in this present moment, which is the only place life is actually happening. This constant time travel is the root of so much of our anxiety. But Zen practice offers a profound and simple refuge. It is the discovery that the present moment, when we truly arrive in it, is a gateless gate, a direct doorway into the land of tranquility we have been searching for all along. There is a Zen tale of a man who was walking through a field when he was suddenly chased by a ferocious tiger. He ran as fast as he could, the tiger's hot breath close behind him, until he came to the edge of a cliff. With no other escape, he grabbed hold of a thick vine and swung himself down over the edge. As he hung there, clinging for his life, he looked up and saw the snarling face of the tiger above him. He then looked down, hoping to find a ledge, but saw another tiger on the ground below, waiting for him to fall. He was trapped. As his grip on the vine began to weaken, he noticed two small mice, one white and one black, had appeared from a crevice and were beginning to gnaw on the vine he was holding. He knew that soon the vine would break. His life was hanging by a thread, with certain death above, certain death below, and the relentless passage of time eating away his only support. At that moment, with his life measured in mere seconds, he noticed something growing on the cliff face right beside him. It was a single wild strawberry, glowing red and ripe in the sunlight. With his free hand, he carefully reached out, plucked the strawberry, and put it in his mouth. It was absolutely delicious. The traveler's story is our story. The tiger behind us is the past, with all its regrets and unresolved issues, always chasing us. The tiger below us is the future, with all its uncertainties and fears, waiting for us to fall. The vine is our fragile hold on life itself, and the two mice, one white and one black, are day and night, relentlessly gnawing away at the time we have left. This is the human condition. We are all, in some way, hanging on a vine between the past and the future. We can spend our entire lives looking up at the tiger of regret, or looking down at the tiger of anxiety. But the most radical and liberating teaching of Zen is that even in the midst of this precarious situation, there is always the strawberry. The strawberry is this present moment. It is the only reality we ever truly have. Peace is not found by magically getting rid of the tigers. The tigers are part of the landscape of life. Peace is found by learning to shift our attention, even for a moment, from the overwhelming problems of the past and future to the simple, direct, and often sweet reality of the here and now. The taste of the strawberry is not a denial of the danger. It is a profound affirmation of life, in the only moment life can ever be lived. To practice walking through the gateless gate and finding your refuge in the present moment, you can use your senses as anchors. This practice gently coaxes your attention out of the abstract world of thought and into the tangible reality of the here and now. As you lie here, begin by gently opening your awareness to the sense of hearing. Listen. What sounds can you hear? Do not strain to listen, just let the sounds come to you. You might hear the faint sound of your own breath. You might hear a quiet hum in the room. You might hear nothing but a deep silence. Whatever is there, just receive it without judgment. Let your awareness be like a vast, open space in which these sounds arise and pass away. Now, bring your awareness to the sense of touch. What can you feel? Notice the points of contact between your body and the bed. Feel the weight of the blankets upon you. Can you feel the sensation of the air on your exposed skin, on your face or hands? Can you feel the subtle, internal sensations within your body, a feeling of warmth or coolness or tingling? Just rest your attention in this world of pure sensation without needing to label it or think about it. Just feel. Next, you can bring your awareness to the sense of smell. Without moving, can you detect any subtle sense in the air? Perhaps the clean smell of your pillowcase or the faint scent of the night air. It does not matter if you smell anything or not. The practice is in the gentle act of being open and receptive to the present moment through your senses. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off into a story about yesterday or tomorrow, see that as the traveler looking at the tigers again. Smile gently at this habit of the mind, and then, kindly and firmly, guide your attention back to the sound of the breath, back to the feeling of the blanket, back to the simple, undeniable reality of this moment. This is your strawberry, and it is always here. Welcome home. As we learn to rest in the simple, open gate of the present moment, we begin to notice the patterns of our own minds with greater clarity. We may see that, even when we are not lost in the past or future, Certain repetitive thoughts and feelings arise again and again, like recurring melodies in a song. We can feel trapped by these habits of mind, as if we are the victim of a mysterious inner force that dictates our moods and our fears. This feeling of being stuck is a deep source of suffering. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a liberating perspective on this experience. It is the teaching of karma, which reveals that we are not the passive victims of our minds, but the active creators of our inner world. One evening, a wandering thief broke into the home of a Zen master named Shichiri. The master was alone, reading scriptures by candlelight. The thief brandished a sharp sword and demanded, "Give me your money, or I will take your life." Shichiri, completely undisturbed, looked up from his book. "Do not disturb me," he said calmly. "You can find the money in that drawer." He then gestured to a drawer in a small chest and returned to his reading. The thief, surprised by this lack of fear, went to the drawer and quickly emptied its contents into a bag. As he was about to leave, the master spoke again without looking up. "Do not take it all," he said. "I need to pay my taxes tomorrow." The thief, even more baffled, put some of the money back in the drawer and turned to leave. Just as he reached the door, the master called out one last time. "When you receive a gift," he said, "you should at least say thank you." For the first time, the thief was truly stunned. He found himself bowing and mumbling thank you before fleeing into the night. Later, the thief was caught and confessed to many crimes, including the robbery of Shichiri. When the master was called to testify, he said simply, "This man is no thief, at least as far as I am concerned. I gave him the money, and he thanked me for it." The thief was so deeply moved by the master's words and his unwavering trust that a profound change occurred within him. After he served his prison sentence, he sought out Shichiri and became his devoted disciple, living a life of peace and integrity until the end of his days. This story is a perfect illustration of the law of karma. Karma is perhaps one of the most misunderstood teachings from the East. It is not a system of cosmic reward and punishment managed by some external judge. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect. The master's action of treating the thief not as a criminal, but as an honorable person, was a powerful cause. He offered a gift of trust and respect. The profound effect was the thief's transformation. The master's intention created a new reality, a new possibility for the thief that the thief could not see for himself. Our minds work in exactly the same way. The Buddha taught that the most crucial element of karma is intention. It is the quality of our intention that plants the seed. When we repeatedly plant seeds of anger, fear, resentment, or self-pity in the garden of our minds become conditioned to grow those very qualities. We create mental habits, neural pathways that make it easier and easier for those same thoughts and feelings to arise in the future. We become trapped in a world of our own making, wondering why our inner landscape is so hostile. This is not a punishment. It is simply the nature of the mind. The most beautiful and empowering part of this teaching is that it is never too late to plant a new seed. In any given moment, no matter how many thorny weeds have grown in the past,
we have the power to plant a seed of kindness, a seed of gratitude, a seed of patience. At first, this new plant might seem small and fragile, but if we persist, if we continue to consciously cultivate skillful intentions, the entire climate of our mind begins to change. The old, painful patterns weaken, and the new, beautiful qualities grow stronger. We are not the victims of our mental habits. We are their architects. To work skillfully with karma as you prepare for rest, you can practice becoming the conscious creator of your own inner state. The first step is to listen with mindful awareness. When you notice a recurring, painful thought loop, a familiar feeling of worry or self-criticism, your first job is not to fight it. Fighting a weed only strengthens its roots. Your job is to recognize it for what it is, an old habit, a seed planted long ago. You can say to yourself, this is the feeling of worry. I know this pattern. This simple act of recognition creates a space of awareness. You are no longer lost in the pattern. You are the one who is witnessing it. The second step is to consciously plant a new seed. This is not about arguing with the old pattern or trying to suppress it. It is about gently and intentionally introducing a new, more skillful intention into the soil of your mind. If the pattern is worry, the new seed could be a silent phrase of trust, such as, "In this moment, all is well," or "I can meet the future with grace." If the pattern is self-criticism, the new seed is an act of self-compassion. You can place a hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, "May I be kind to myself." If the pattern is resentment toward another person, the new seed can be a simple wish for their well-being. May you be at peace. This practice is not about pretending you do not feel what you feel. It is a profound act of mental hygiene. It is a recognition that you have a choice. You can continue to water the same painful weeds, or you can choose to plant and nourish a flower that will create an inner world of peace, freedom, and well-being. Tonight, you can be the source of a new beginning. Plant the seeds for a peaceful tomorrow by introducing a gentle, kind, and loving intention into your mind right now. Let us pause here just for a moment. Feel the quality of this present moment. It is fresh, new, unburdened by the echoes of the past. Take a breath into this freshness. As you breathe out, let go of any old stories. You are here, and you are free to begin anew. The journey we have taken so far, from observing the mind to cultivating the heart, leads us to a central and most vital sanctuary of peace. So much of our inner turmoil arises from one simple fact: we are very rarely, ever, fully present. Our minds are constantly living in one of two places, the past or the future. We drift into the past, replaying conversations, nursing old hurts, or dwelling on moments of regret. Or we project ourselves into the future, rehearsing for challenges, worrying about what might go wrong, or spinning out endless plans. We are almost never simply here in this present moment, which is the only place life is actually happening. This constant time travel is the root of so much of our anxiety. But Zen practice offers a profound and simple refuge. It is the discovery that the present moment, when we truly arrive in it,
is a gateless gate, a direct doorway into the land of tranquility we have been searching for all along. There is a Zen tale of a man who was walking through a field when he was suddenly chased by a ferocious tiger. He ran as fast as he could, the tiger's hot breath close behind him, until he came to the edge of a cliff. With no other escape, he grabbed hold of a thick vine and swung himself down over the edge. As he hung there, clinging for his life, he looked up and saw the snarling face of the tiger above him. He then looked down, hoping to find a ledge, but saw another tiger on the ground below, waiting for him to fall. He was trapped. As his grip on the vine began to weaken, he noticed two small mice, one white and one black, had appeared from a crevice and were beginning to gnaw on the vine he was holding. He knew that soon the vine would break. His life was hanging by a thread, with certain death above, certain death below, and the relentless passage of time eating away his only support. At that moment, with his life measured in mere seconds, he noticed something growing on the cliff face right beside him. It was a single, wild strawberry, glowing red and ripe in the sunlight. With his free hand, he carefully reached out, plucked the strawberry, and put it in his mouth. It was absolutely delicious. The traveler's story is our story. The tiger behind us is the past, with all its regrets and unresolved issues always chasing us. The tiger below us is the future, with all its uncertainties and fears waiting for us to fall. The vine is our fragile hold on life itself, and the two mice, one white and one black, are day and night, relentlessly gnawing away at the time we have left. This is the human condition. We are all, in some way, hanging on a vine between the past and the future. We can spend our entire lives looking up at the tiger of regret, or looking down at the tiger of anxiety. But the most radical and liberating teaching of Zen is that even in the midst of this precarious situation, there is always the strawberry. The strawberry is this present moment. It is the only reality we ever truly have. Peace is not found by magically getting rid of the tigers. The tigers are part of the landscape of life. Peace is found by learning to shift our attention, even for a moment, from the overwhelming problems of the past and future to the simple, direct, and often sweet reality of the here and now. The taste of the strawberry is not a denial of the danger. It is a profound affirmation of life, in the only moment life can ever be lived. To practice walking through the gateless gate and finding your refuge in the present moment, you can use your senses as anchors. This practice gently coaxes your attention out of the abstract world of thought and into the tangible reality of the here and now. As you lie here, begin by gently opening your awareness to the sense of hearing. Listen. What sounds can you hear? Do not strain to listen. Just let the sounds come to you. You might hear the faint sound of your own breath. You might hear a quiet hum in the room. You might hear nothing but a deep silence. Whatever is there, just receive it without judgment. Let your awareness be like a vast, open space in which these sounds arise and pass away. Now, bring your awareness to the sense of touch. What can you feel? Notice the points of contact between your body and the bed. Feel the weight of the blankets upon you. Can you feel the sensation of the air on your exposed skin, on your face or hands? Can you feel the subtle internal sensations within your body? A feeling of warmth or coolness or tingling? Just rest your attention in this world of pure sensation without needing to label it or think about it. Just feel. Next, you can bring your awareness to the sense of smell. Without moving, can you detect any subtle scents in the air? Perhaps the clean smell of your pillowcase, or the faint scent of the night air. It does not matter if you smell anything or not. The practice is in the gentle act of being open and receptive to the present moment through your senses. Each time you notice your mind has wandered off into a story about yesterday or tomorrow, see that as the traveler looking at the tigers again. Smile gently at this habit of the mind, and then kindly and firmly guide your attention back to the sound of the breath, back to the feeling of the blanket, back to the simple, undeniable reality of this moment. This is your strawberry, and it is always here. Welcome home. As we learn to rest in the simple, open gate of the present moment, we begin to notice the patterns of our own minds with greater clarity. We may see that, even when we are not lost in the past or future, certain repetitive thoughts and feelings arise again and again, like recurring melodies in a song. We can feel trapped by these habits of mind, as if we are the victim of a mysterious inner force that dictates our moods and our fears. This feeling of being stuck is a deep source of suffering. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a liberating perspective on this experience. It is the teaching of karma, which reveals that we are not the passive victims of our minds, but the active creators of our inner world. One evening, a wandering thief broke into the home of a Zen master named Shichiri. The master was alone, reading scriptures by candlelight. The thief brandished a sharp sword and said, "Give me your money, or I will take your life." Shichiri, completely undisturbed, looked up from his book. "Do not disturb me," he said calmly. "You can find the money in that drawer." He then gestured to a drawer in a small chest and returned to his reading. The thief, surprised by this lack of fear, went to the drawer and quickly emptied its contents into a bag. As he was about to leave, the master spoke again, without looking up. "Do not take it all," he said. "I need to pay my taxes tomorrow." The thief, even more baffled, put some of the money back in the drawer and turned to leave. Just as he reached the door, the master called out one last time. "When you receive a gift," he said, "you should at least say thank you." For the first time, the thief was truly stunned. He found himself bowing and mumbling thank you before fleeing into the night. Later, the thief was caught and confessed to many crimes, including the robbery of Shichiri. When the master was called to testify, he said simply, "This man is no thief, at least as far as I am concerned. I gave him the money, and he thanked me for it." The thief was so deeply moved by the master's words and his unwavering trust that a profound change occurred within him. After he served his prison sentence, he sought out Shichiri and became his devoted disciple. living a life of peace and integrity until the end of his days. This story is a perfect illustration of the law of karma. Karma is perhaps one of the most misunderstood teachings from the East. It is not a system of cosmic reward and punishment managed by some external judge. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect. The master's action of treating the thief not as a criminal but as an honorable person was a powerful cause. He offered a gift of trust and respect. The profound effect was the thief's transformation. The master's intention created a new reality, a new possibility for the thief that the thief could not see for himself. Our minds work in exactly the same way. The Buddha taught that the most crucial element of karma is intention. It is the quality of our intention that plants the seed. When we repeatedly plant seeds of anger, fear, resentment, or self-pity in the garden of our minds become conditioned to grow those very qualities. We create mental habits, neural pathways that make it easier and easier for those same thoughts and feelings to arise in the future. We become trapped in a world of our own making, wondering why our inner landscape is so hostile. This is not a punishment. It is simply the nature of the mind. The most beautiful and empowering part of this teaching is that it is never too late to plant a new seed. In any given moment, no matter how many thorny weeds have grown in the past, we have the power to plant a seed of kindness, a seed of gratitude, a seed of patience. At first, this new plant might seem small and fragile, but if we persist, if we continue to consciously cultivate skillful intentions, the entire climate of our mind begins to change. The old painful patterns weaken, and the new beautiful qualities grow stronger. We are not the victims of our mental habits. We are their architects. To work skillfully with karma as you prepare for rest, you can practice becoming the conscious creator of your own inner state. The first step is to listen with mindful awareness. When you notice a recurring, painful thought loop, a familiar feeling of worry or self-criticism, your first job is not to fight it. Fighting a weed only strengthens its roots. Your job is to recognize it for what it is, an old habit, a seed planted long ago. You can say to yourself, this is the feeling of worry. I know this pattern. This simple act of recognition creates a space of awareness. You are no longer lost in the pattern. You are the one who is witnessing it. The second step is to consciously plant a new seed. This is not about arguing with the old pattern or trying to suppress it. It is about gently and intentionally introducing a new, more skillful intention into the soil of your mind. If the pattern is worry, the new seed could be a silent phrase of trust, such as, "In this moment, all is well," or "I can meet the future with grace." If the pattern is self-criticism, the new seed is an act of self-compassion. You can place a hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, "May I be kind to myself." If the pattern is resentment toward another person, the new seed can be a simple wish for their well-being. May you be at peace. This practice is not about pretending you do not feel what you feel. It is a profound act of mental hygiene. It is a recognition that you have a choice. You can continue to water the same painful weeds, or you can choose to plant and nourish a flower that will create an inner world of peace, freedom, and well-being. Tonight, you can be the source of a new beginning. Plant the seeds for a peaceful tomorrow by introducing a gentle, kind, and loving intention into your mind right now. Let us pause here just for a moment. Feel the quality of this present moment. It is fresh, new, unburdened by the echoes of the past. Take a breath into this freshness. As you breathe out, let go of any old stories. You are here, and you are free to begin anew. As we become more aware of our power to shape our inner world, we arrive at another profound layer of Zen wisdom. We begin to see that it is not the events of our lives that cause us suffering, but the stories and judgments our minds attach to them. A simple comment becomes an insult. A small mistake becomes a catastrophe. A neutral silence becomes a rejection. Our minds are constantly painting over the simple canvas of reality with the dark colors of our fears and insecurities. This habit of adding a second, painful layer to our experience is the source of so much inner turmoil, especially in the quiet of the night. The path to the deep peace that allows for effortless sleep is the path of learning to see things as they are, cultivating a mind that is like a clear and silent mirror, reflecting reality without distortion or judgment. There is a story of the Zen master Ryokan, who lived a life of profound simplicity in a small, rustic hut at the foot of a mountain. His days were spent in meditation, writing poetry, and sometimes playing with the village children. He owned almost nothing. A single patched robe, a wooden bowl, a thin mat for sleeping, and a collection of smooth stones he used for contemplation. His poverty was not a burden to him. It was his freedom. One warm evening, while Ryokan was out walking, a thief broke into the hut. The thief was a desperate man, driven by hunger and hardship. He searched the tiny space frantically, but his frustration quickly grew to anger. There was nothing of value, nothing that could be sold for even a handful of rice. As the thief stood in the center of the hut, cursing his bad luck, Ryokan returned. The master was not alarmed or angry. He looked at the disheveled man with eyes full of a deep, sorrowful compassion. "You must have come a very long way to visit me," Ryokan said, his voice gentle and calm. "It is a shame that you should have to return empty-handed." Ryokan then untied the simple robe from his own shoulders. It was his only piece of clothing, old and patched, but it was all he had to give. "Please," he said, "take this as a gift." The thief was utterly stunned into silence. This was not the reaction he expected. He had come with threats and found only generosity. Awkwardly, without a word, he snatched the robe from the master's hands and fled into the darkness. Ryokan, now completely naked, sat down on the threshold of his hut. The cool night air touched his skin. He did not feel loss or violation. He felt only a quiet pity for the man who had left. He looked up through the bare branches of the trees at the brilliant full moon hanging in the night sky. A soft sigh escaped his lips. "Poor fellow," he mused to himself, his heart aching with a genuine wish. "I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." This story reveals the nature of a mind that has found true peace. It is the mind of a clear mirror. In Buddhist teachings, there is the concept of the two arrows. The first arrow is the direct, unavoidable pain of life itself. A robbery, an illness, a loss. These things happen. They are the first arrow. The second arrow is the one we shoot into ourselves. It is our reaction to the first arrow, the anger, the resentment, the self-pity, the fear, the story we tell ourselves about how terrible and unfair it all is. For most of us, the pain of the second arrow is far greater than the pain of the first. The thief and the robbery were the first arrow for Ryokan. It was a simple, factual event. But Ryokan does not shoot the second arrow. His mind does not create a story of grievance. There is no thought of, I have been wronged, that man was evil, or now I will be cold. Because he does not shoot this second arrow of reaction, his mind remains spacious and clear. It is not stained by the event. This clarity allows him to respond not from a place of fear or anger, but from a place of profound compassion. He sees the thief's inner poverty, a poverty far greater than his own material lack. And once the event is over, once the reflection of the thief has passed from the mirror of his mind, the mirror is once again empty and clear, able to perfectly reflect what is truly present, the sublime, untouchable beauty of the moon. When we lie down to sleep, we are often pierced by a volley of second arrows we have been shooting into ourselves all day long and for years before. We replay conversations, cringe at mistakes, and stew in old resentments. Our peace is stolen not by the events themselves, but by our mind's refusal to let them go. The teaching of the clear mirror is an invitation to lay down our bow. It is the practice of learning to let life happen, to feel the sting of the first arrow without adding the poison of the second. To practice cultivating the clear mirror of your own mind, you can begin by changing your relationship to the thoughts and sensations that arise as you lie here, preparing for deep sleep. Let go of any goal other than to simply rest as open, non-judgmental awareness. Imagine, if you will, that your mind, your consciousness, is a vast, perfectly polished mirror. It is infinitely deep, perfectly silent, and has a natural quality of calm clarity. It has been here your entire life, witnessing every experience. It has never been scratched or stained by even the most difficult event. Its nature is pure presence. Now, as you rest as this mirror, simply allow the contents of your experience to appear as fleeting reflections. A thought about tomorrow may arise, a plan or a worry. Instead of getting lost in its story, see it simply as a reflection, a cloud passing across the surface of the mirror. It appears, it is seen clearly, without judgment, and then it is allowed to drift away, leaving the mirror just as clear and untroubled as it was before. A sensation may arise in your body, perhaps an ache, a warmth, or an itch. See this too as a simple reflection. Observe its qualities, its location, its intensity, its texture, without adding a story to it. A story of, I do not like this, or this is a problem. Just let it be reflected in the clear, accepting space of your awareness. It too will change and pass. Sounds from the room, memories from the past, feelings of peace or restlessness, allow them all to be reflections. Your only practice is to remain as the mirror itself, silent, still, and fundamentally at ease. You will notice the mind's habit of wanting to grab onto the reflections, to analyze them, judge them, or push them away. This is the stickiness, the habit of shooting the second arrow. When you notice this happening, there is no need for criticism. Simply notice it and then gently relax your grip. Return your sense of being to the mirror itself, not to the reflection. In this practice, you discover a deep and unshakable peace that is not dependent on what is being reflected. It is the inherent, silent, beautiful peace of the clear mirror itself. Let us pause here just for a moment. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breath, a quiet anchor in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you might be holding. Let the edges of your day melt into this quiet space of rest. Having learned to see our mind as a clear mirror, we can find a deep and abiding peace that is not dependent on our circumstances. But what happens when a reflection is so powerful, so charged with emotion, that it seems to stain the mirror completely? What do we do when a powerful fear, a deep sadness, or a persistent anxiety arises and refuses to leave? Our instinct is to fight these experiences, to push them away, to try to scrub them from the mirror of our awareness. We declare an internal war, believing that our peace can only begin once these enemies are vanquished. But in Zen, we are taught a different, more courageous way. It is a path of radical acceptance, a practice of meeting our most difficult inner states, not as enemies to be conquered, but as honored, though perhaps challenging, guests to be welcomed with a bow. There is a story of a great Zen master who ran a small, remote monastery nestled deep in a snowy mountain valley. The master was revered for his deep compassion and an unwavering calm that seemed to emanate from him like the warmth from a fire. One bitter winter, a lone traveler, a disgraced samurai, arrived at the monastery gates seeking shelter. From the moment he entered, he was a storm of negativity. His arrogance was a sharp wind that chilled every room. He complained loudly about the simple vegetarian food, calling it unfit for a warrior. He openly mocked the students during their silent meditation, sneering at their posture and discipline. He spoke to the master himself with a shocking lack of respect, treating the old man as if he were a common innkeeper. The students, who loved their teacher deeply, were outraged. Their quiet practice was filled with angry, judgmental thoughts directed at this disruptive guest. After 3 days of this, a group of senior students approached the master. "Teacher," their spokesman said, his voice tight with confusion, "this man is a poison in our community. He insults you, he disrupts our practice, and he shows no gratitude for our hospitality. We cannot find peace with him here. You must send him away, back out into the snow." The master listened to them patiently, his eyes full of a deep, sorrowful understanding. When the student had finished, the master shook his head gently. "No," he said calmly, "this man is our guest. He is cold, not just from the winter wind, but from a coldness deep within his own heart. He is suffering.
Our practice is not to create a perfect world free from difficult people. Our practice is to learn how to keep our hearts open in their presence. We will treat him with the utmost kindness and respect. And so they did. The master himself served the guest the best portions of food, ensuring his bowl was always full. He gave him the warmest blankets by the fire and would sit with him in the evenings, listening to his angry tirades and bitter stories with a patient and open heart. The students, struggling against their own resentment, but following their teacher's profound example, began to treat the samurai not as an enemy, but as someone in deep pain. They bowed to him, they served him, they met his anger with quiet, unwavering gentleness. For several more days, the samurai's harsh exterior remained, but slowly, faced with a kindness that asked for nothing in return, something inside him began to melt. His arrogance cracked. One evening, as the master served him tea, the samurai suddenly broke down, great sobs shaking his body. He confessed a life of violence, loss, and deep regret that had frozen his heart. He bowed his head to the floor and asked the master for forgiveness. The master simply placed a hand on his shoulder. "There is nothing to forgive," he said. "You have been our guest." After the man left weeks later, a profoundly changed person, the students asked the master why he had shown such patience. The master replied, "Every person who comes to our door is a guest, but the most difficult ones, the ones who test our patience and challenge our peace, they are not just guests, they are our most important teachers." The master's wisdom shows us exactly how to work with the difficult guests who arrive in our own minds. Our anxiety, our fear, our sadness, our anger, these are our most challenging visitors. In the Buddhist tradition, these forces are sometimes personified as Mara, the tempter, the embodiment of everything that keeps us from peace. When Mara arrives, especially in the vulnerable quiet of the night, our first instinct is to act like the students. We want to throw him out. We lock the doors of our mind. We pretend we are not home. We brace ourselves against his pounding. We fight our anxiety with frantic distraction. We resist our sadness with forced positivity. We try to suppress our fear with logic. This struggle, this internal battle against what we are feeling, is what creates so much tension. It is an exhausting siege that makes rest and sleep impossible. The master shows us the way of wisdom. The practice is to turn towards Mara, to greet our difficult emotions as honored guests. This does not mean we have to like them. It does not mean we have to believe everything they say. It simply means we make a conscious, courageous choice to stop fighting them. We open the door of our awareness and we say, "Ah, anxiety, you are here. I see you. Welcome. Come in and have some tea." This act of gentle, mindful hospitality is utterly transformative. An enemy who is fought grows stronger. A guest who is honored and listened to eventually softens. When you stop fighting your fear, it often loses its monstrous power and reveals itself to be a frightened child. When you can sit with your sadness with a kind and open heart, it can deliver its message and move through you more freely. These difficult guests
are our greatest teachers because they show us exactly where we are still stuck, where our hearts are still closed, where we are still at war with ourselves. By learning to meet them with kindness, we learn the deepest form of peace, a peace that is wide enough and strong enough to hold even the most profound pain. To practice welcoming your own difficult guests, you can use a meditation of compassionate hosting as you settle into this time of rest. Let your body be comfortable and let your intention be one of gentleness. First, simply acknowledge who has arrived. Gently scan your body and mind for any difficult guest that may be present tonight. Perhaps it is the guest of worry pacing back and forth in your mind. Perhaps it is the guest of loneliness sitting silently in your heart. Perhaps it is a guest of physical pain or discomfort, making its presence known in your body. Do not try to push it away. The first step is to simply acknowledge its presence. You can even give it a name in your mind. Ah, the guest of worry has arrived. I see you. Next, consciously open the door. This means letting go of your resistance. Physically, you can soften the muscles in your jaw, your shoulders, your stomach, all the places that tense up to fight against an unwanted feeling. Mentally, you can create a space for this guest in your awareness, rather than trying to crowd it out. Imagine your awareness is a large, quiet, welcoming room. You can invite the guest to sit down. You are not celebrating its presence, but you are also not fighting it. You are simply allowing it to be. Now, you can practice serving tea to this guest. Serving tea is a metaphor for offering it your gentle, mindful, friendly attention. You can bring your awareness to the physical sensations of this emotion. Where do you feel the worry in your body? As a tightness in your chest, a churning in your stomach? Just feel the raw sensation without adding more stories. You can also offer it a silent phrase of kindness, just as the master offered the guest a warm blanket. You might say to this feeling, I see you are here. I know you are suffering. Or, you are welcome to rest here for a while. Remember, you are the host, not the guest. The guest of worry may be loud and demanding, but it does not own the house. You do. By treating your own difficult states with this radical hospitality, you cease to be their victim. You become a compassionate host, capable of holding any experience with a deep and unshakable peace, creating the perfect conditions for your entire being to finally rest. Let us pause here, just for a moment. Feel the gentle rhythm of your own breath, a quiet anchor in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you might be holding. Let the edges of your day melt into this quiet space of rest. As we let go of the burden of the past and the future, we arrive at the final doorway to deep and lasting peace. It is the practice that underpins all the others. It is the final, graceful act of letting go. It is the wisdom of surrender. In a world that prizes control, effort, and determination, the idea of surrender can sound like weakness or defeat. But in the context of Zen and the art of rest, surrender is an act of profound strength, wisdom, and trust. It is the recognition that some of life's greatest gifts, like sleep, love, and peace, cannot be seized through effort. They can only be received when we have the courage to open our hands and let go of our tight grip of control. There is a story of a young monk who sought solitude to deepen his meditation. He took a small boat out to the middle of a vast, tranquil lake, far from the sounds of the monastery. He closed his eyes and began to meditate, savoring the perfect stillness. After only a few moments, he felt a sudden, jarring bump. Another boat had collided with his. His eyes shot open, and a wave of irritation and anger rose within him. How could someone be so careless? How dare they disturb his precious peace? He turned, ready to shout at the person in the other boat, but he saw that the boat was empty. It had simply come loose from its moorings and had drifted silently across the lake, carried by the gentle current. In that instant, the monk had a profound awakening. His anger, which had felt so justified and real a moment before, had nowhere to go. There was no one to blame. The boat was empty. He realized that his anger did not come from the boat. It came from within him. The empty boat had simply bumped into a part of him that was already there, waiting to be disturbed. From that day on, whenever he met someone who angered or upset him, he would remind himself, "The boat is empty." Our relationship with sleep is exactly like the monk's relationship with the empty boat. We lie in bed, seeking perfect stillness, and when sleep does not arrive, we feel a bump. We become irritated, frustrated, anxious. We believe that sleeplessness is an adversary, an external force that is colliding with our desire for peace. We begin to shout at it, to fight with it, to blame it for our suffering. But the wisdom of this story invites us to see that the boat is empty. Sleep, or the lack of it, has no intention. It is an impersonal, natural process, like an untethered boat drifting on a current. The anger, the anxiety, the frustration, it does not come from the sleeplessness itself. It comes from within us. It is our own resistance, our own attachment to a desired outcome that causes the suffering. The struggle is what keeps us awake. Surrender is the moment we realize the boat is empty. It is the moment we stop shouting. It is the moment we let go of the fight and allow things to be just as they are. This is the ultimate act of trust. It is a deep trust in the wisdom of your own body, which knows its own need for rest and knows how to find it. It is a trust in the rhythm of life, the natural cycle of day and night, of activity and rest. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is giving ourselves over to a power and a wisdom that is greater than our own anxious, thinking mind. To practice this final act of surrender, let us bring our journey to its natural conclusion. There are no more complex instructions. There are no more techniques to master. The time for doing is over. The time for being has arrived. As you lie here, feel the full weight of your body. Feel how it is already held, already supported by the surface beneath you. The bed is holding you completely. You do not need to hold yourself. Begin by consciously giving permission for your body to let go. With your next exhalation, release the weight of your head and neck into the pillow. Let them be heavy. With your next exhalation, release the weight of your shoulders and your arms. Let them be completely limp. Breathe out and release the weight of your torso, your back, your hips. Feel yourself sinking, settling, releasing. And with a final, long exhalation, Let go of the weight of your legs, your feet, your whole body, heavy, soft, and completely at rest. Now, let go of control of your breath. You do not need to manage it. Your body knows how to breathe. Simply allow the breath to breathe itself. And finally, let go of your mind. Let go of being the observer. Let go of labeling your thoughts. Let go of all techniques, all effort. Let go of the need to get it right. Trust that you have done enough. You have planted the seeds. Now, you must let the garden grow on its own. Simply lie back in the vast quiet darkness and trust. Trust in the night. Trust in the silence. Trust in your own capacity for deep, healing rest. The boat is empty. There is no one to fight. Now, just allow the great, gentle lake of the night to hold you, to rock you, and to carry you effortlessly into the peaceful depths of sleep. Our journey through these gentle Buddhist teachings now comes to a quiet close. We have walked together from the restless shores of the thinking mind to the still, deep waters of the heart. We have seen that our struggle is not with the world, but with our own resistance to its ever-changing flow. We have discovered that beneath the passing clouds of our thoughts and worries, the vast open sky of our own awareness is always peaceful and untouched. We have learned to be a wise gardener for our minds, to find beauty in our own imperfections, and to unburden ourselves from the heavy costume of a fixed identity. And we have arrived here at the gateless gate of the present moment, realizing that the peace we seek is not in a distant land, but in the simple, profound act of surrender. Remember that this path is not about adding something new to yourself, but about letting go of what obscures the peace that is already here. You are not building a fortress of calm. You are simply clearing away the debris of old habits and mistaken beliefs so that your own natural, quiet wellspring can flow freely. Think of yourself as a weary traveler who has been on a long and difficult journey, carrying a heavy pack upon your back. You have finally arrived home. This bed, this room, this present moment, this is your home. The journey is over for today. You can now gently set down your heavy pack, the pack filled with all your worries, your plans, your regrets, and your responsibilities. You can set it by the door. It will be there in the morning if you need it, but for tonight, you are free of its weight. There is no final test to pass, no examination of how well you have listened or how much you have understood. The only thing left to do is to rest in the sanctuary you have arrived at. So let this be a moment of profound trust. Trust in the seeds you have planted in the garden of your mind tonight. Trust that even a single moment of mindfulness, a single thought of kindness, a single breath of surrender has already begun its gentle work. And most of all, trust in the deep, innate wisdom of your own body. Your body knows how to heal. It knows how to rest. It knows how to sleep. All it asks is for a mind that is willing to be quiet enough, to feel safe enough, to let go. All the practices we have shared have been for this one purpose: to create a state of inner safety, a gentle truce in the civil war of the mind, so that your body can finally feel permission to enter the deep, restorative peace it so deeply needs and deserves. The work is complete. All that is left is to receive the gift of rest. Now, let us conclude our journey with some timeless Zen stories. Yamaoka Teshu was a young and intellectually gifted student of Zen who had spent considerable time studying Buddhist philosophy and developing what he believed was a sophisticated understanding of the deepest teachings. He was particularly drawn to the profound concepts of emptiness and non-duality that form the foundation of advanced Buddhist thought, and he felt confident that his grasp of these ideas demonstrated significant spiritual achievement. Having heard of the renowned Master Dokuon's reputation for wisdom and insight, Yamaoka decided to visit him to demonstrate his understanding and perhaps receive acknowledgement of his philosophical sophistication. He approached this meeting with the confidence of someone who had mastered complex intellectual material and expected to engage in elevated spiritual discourse. When Yamaoka was granted an audience with Master Dokuon, he found the master sitting quietly in his simple room, smoking his bamboo pipe with calm composure. The atmosphere was peaceful and unpretentious, but Yamaoka was eager to share his insights and engage in profound philosophical discussion. "Master," Yamaoka began with the authority of someone well-versed in Buddhist doctrine, "I have come to share with you my understanding of the fundamental nature of reality as taught by the Buddha." He proceeded to articulate what he considered a masterful summary of advanced Buddhist philosophy. The mind, Buddha, and sentient beings, after all, do not exist in any ultimate sense. Everything we perceive and experience is, when examined closely, empty of inherent existence. The true nature of all phenomena is emptiness itself. There is no solid, independent reality to be found anywhere. Yamaoka continued with growing confidence in his exposition. There is no realization to be achieved because there is no one to achieve it and nothing to be realized. There is no delusion to be overcome because delusion itself is empty. There is no sage and no ordinary person because these distinctions are merely conceptual fabrications with no ultimate reality. Furthermore, he concluded with evident satisfaction in his philosophical precision, there is no one who gives teachings and nothing to be received, no teacher and no student, because all such dualities are illusions created by conceptual thinking that fails to recognize the fundamental emptiness of existence. Throughout this lengthy philosophical presentation, Master Dokuon continued smoking his pipe in silence, showing no particular reaction to Yamaoka's elaborate exposition of Buddhist metaphysics. His face remained calm and neutral, neither impressed nor dismissive of the young man's intellectual display. When Yamaoka finished his discourse and waited expectantly for some acknowledgement of his understanding, Master Dokuon made no verbal response. Instead, he continued smoking quietly for several more moments, as if considering what he had heard. Then, without any warning or explanation, Master Dokuon picked up his bamboo pipe and struck Yamaoka hard on the head with it. The blow was unexpected and quite painful. Yamaoka immediately jumped up from his seated position, his face flushed with anger and indignation. His philosophical composure vanished instantly, replaced by very human emotions of pain, surprise, and rage. "Why did you hit me?" he demanded, his voice filled with outrage. "What kind of teaching method is this? How dare you strike a visitor who came here respectfully to discuss the Dharma?" Master Dokuan looked at the angry young man with a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "If nothing exists," he said calmly, "where did this anger come from?" Yamaoka stood there speechless, his entire philosophical framework suddenly revealed as inadequate to address his immediate experience. All his sophisticated understanding of emptiness and non-existence had dissolved the moment he encountered actual pain and genuine emotional reaction. His intellectual grasp of Buddhist concepts proved completely useless when faced with the direct reality of his own mind's responses. The Buddha taught, "Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it." This ancient wisdom illuminates the crucial difference between intellectual acceptance of spiritual teachings and authentic realization that transforms how we actually live. What emerges from this story is a teaching about the vast gap that can exist between conceptual understanding and embodied wisdom. Yamaoka could articulate sophisticated Buddhist philosophy with impressive precision, but his understanding remained purely intellectual rather than experiential. When challenged by immediate reality, his concepts offered no real guidance or stability. This tale unveils a pattern that appears frequently in spiritual development: the accumulation of spiritual knowledge that remains separate from actual transformation. We can study teachings about non-attachment while remaining deeply attached to our spiritual identity. We can understand theories about the illusory nature of the ego while defending our self-image with great intensity. We can master the vocabulary of enlightenment while remaining caught in the same emotional patterns we've always experienced. Master Dokuan's teaching method was both skillful and direct. Rather than engaging in abstract philosophical debate, he created an immediate situation that would reveal the difference between Yamaoka's concepts and his actual level of realization. The pipe striking his head wasn't an act of aggression, but a compassionate teaching device designed to show the young man where his understanding remained merely theoretical. Why do we sometimes mistake intellectual comprehension for genuine spiritual attainment? The thinking mind is seductive in its ability to create elaborate frameworks that give us a sense of understanding and progress. When we can explain complex spiritual concepts fluently, we naturally feel that we've achieved something significant. But as Yamaoka discovered, conceptual knowledge often proves inadequate when we encounter actual challenges to our equanimity. The anger that arose when Yamaoka was struck revealed the gap between his philosophical stance and his emotional reality. If he had truly realized the emptiness of existence he described so eloquently, physical pain and unexpected treatment wouldn't have triggered such an immediate and intense reaction. His anger demonstrated that despite his sophisticated rhetoric, his sense of self remained very much intact and reactive. Consider how this teaching might apply to your own spiritual or personal development. Are there areas where your intellectual understanding exceeds your actual capacity to embody what you know? Perhaps you understand the principles of mindfulness while still becoming lost in anxious thoughts during stressful situations. Maybe you believe in the importance of compassion while finding yourself harshly critical of people whose behavior annoys you. This pattern appears beyond formal spiritual contexts in any domain where knowledge and practice diverge. We might understand the psychology of healthy relationships while still falling into dysfunctional communication patterns during conflict. we could know a great deal about nutrition and exercise while maintaining habits that don't support our well-being. The pipe in this story represents any experience that tests whether our understanding has moved beyond the conceptual level into genuine embodiment. These tests often arrive unexpectedly. A criticism that triggers defensiveness, a setback that reveals hidden attachments, or a conflict that exposes the gap between our spiritual ideals and our actual responses. Zen Buddhism emphasizes direct experience over intellectual knowledge precisely because concepts alone cannot transform consciousness. We can study meditation techniques extensively, but sitting quietly with a restless mind for 20 minutes often teaches us more about the nature of awareness than reading countless books about mindfulness theory. Master Dokuan's question, "Where did this anger come from?" pointed directly to the contradiction between Yamaoka's philosophical position and his immediate experience. If nothing truly exists, including the self that could be offended, then anger should have no basis for arising. The fact that anger did arise so quickly and intensely revealed that Yamaoka's realization of emptiness remained conceptual rather than experiential. The Buddha said, "However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them?" Yamaoka had absorbed many holy words about emptiness and non-existence, but his reaction to the pipe demonstrated that these words hadn't yet transformed his actual relationship to experience. What's remarkable about this teaching encounter is how quickly it revealed the truth of Yamaoka's situation. Rather than allowing him to continue building elaborate intellectual frameworks that might take years to deconstruct, Master Dokuan's direct intervention immediately exposed the gap between knowledge and realization. Tonight, as you reflect on your own spiritual and personal development, can you identify areas where your intellectual understanding might exceed your actual capacity to embody what you know? When tomorrow brings unexpected challenges, the metaphorical pipes that test our equanimity, will you respond from genuine realization or react from conditioned patterns? As the Buddha taught, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Perhaps the deepest thinking is learning to think less and embody more, discovering that true wisdom reveals itself not in what we can explain about emptiness, but in how empty we can remain when pipes strike our heads. Let us now turn to a tale about the difference between intellectual knowledge and lived wisdom. This is Tokusan's rice cakes. Tokusan was renowned throughout the land as a brilliant scholar of the Diamond Sutra, one of the most profound and complex texts in all of Buddhism. He had spent decades studying its every line, memorizing its intricate philosophical arguments, and writing extensive commentaries that other scholars praised for their depth and sophistication. His understanding of the sutra's teachings about emptiness, non-attachment, and the illusory nature of phenomena was considered masterful by academic standards. When Tokusan heard that Zen masters in the southern regions were teaching a different approach to Buddhism, one that emphasized direct experience over scholarly study, he was both intrigued and skeptical. These teachers claimed that enlightenment could be achieved through simple meditation and direct pointing to the mind's true nature, rather than through years of textual analysis and philosophical debate. Convinced that these southern teachers were misguided and that they were leading people away from the Buddha's true teachings, Tokusan decided to journey south to challenge them in formal debate. He was confident that his superior knowledge of the scriptures would easily expose their shallow understanding and return them to proper Buddhist study. He packed his extensive collection of commentaries and scholarly works into a large traveling case and set out on the long journey. The weight of his books slowed his progress, but he was determined to bring these important texts with him as ammunition for the intellectual battles ahead. After several days of travel, Tokusan grew hungry and stopped at a small roadside tea stall run by an elderly woman who was selling rice cakes and simple refreshments to passing travelers. The modest stall offered welcome shade from the midday sun, and the aroma of freshly prepared food reminded him how long it had been since his last meal. "Venerable scholar," the old woman said respectfully, "I would like to purchase some rice cakes to refresh myself," Tokusan announced, setting down his heavy pack of books. The old woman looked at him curiously, noting his scholarly robes and the obvious weight of the leather case he carried. "What is it that you carry in that large pack?" she asked with genuine interest. "These are my commentaries on the Diamond Sutra," Tokusan replied with considerable pride, patting the case affectionately. "I have devoted my life to understanding this most profound of all Buddhist texts." "Is that so?" the old woman said thoughtfully. "How wonderful! Then perhaps you can help me understand something that has always puzzled me about that text." Tokusan straightened up, pleased to have an opportunity to demonstrate his expertise. "I would be honored to answer any question you might have about the Diamond Sutra." The old woman smiled gently. "If you can answer my question correctly, I will give you the rice cakes for free. If you cannot provide a satisfactory answer, I'm afraid you'll need to find refreshment elsewhere." Tokusan, completely confident in his scholarly mastery, readily agreed to this arrangement. What question could a simple tea stall operator possibly pose that would challenge his decades of study? The old woman then quoted directly from the sutra that Tokusan had spent his life analyzing. The Diamond Sutra teaches us that the mind of the past cannot be held, the mind of the present cannot be held, and the mind of the future cannot be held. If this teaching is true, venerable scholar, which mind do you intend to refresh with my rice cakes? Tokusan was struck speechless. All his years of sophisticated analysis, all his elaborate theoretical frameworks, all his profound commentaries suddenly seemed utterly useless in the face of this simple, direct question. He stood there in stunned silence, unable to produce any answer at all. The old woman waited patiently, but it became clear that the great scholar had no response to offer. With gentle compassion, she explained that he would need to continue his journey without refreshment from her stall. Humbled and confused, Tokusan gathered his books and continued walking, but his confidence was completely shattered. He realized that his intellectual understanding was a world away from the direct, lived wisdom that this simple woman possessed. His scholarly knowledge had prepared him to discuss Buddhist philosophy, but not to embody its essential truth. As the Buddha understood, the finger that points to the moon is not the moon. What emerges from this story is the crucial distinction between conceptual understanding and direct realization, between knowing about truth and being truth. This tale unveils a pattern that extends far beyond Buddhist scholarship into every area of human learning and development. We often confuse our ability to explain something intellectually with actually understanding it in a way that transforms how we live. We become experts in describing love while remaining unable to love skillfully, or authorities on happiness while living in constant anxiety. Tokusan's predicament reveals how the accumulation of knowledge can sometimes become an obstacle to genuine insight. His years of study had given him tremendous confidence in his understanding, but they had also created a barrier between him and direct experience. He knew what the Diamond Sutra said about the nature of mind, but he had never really looked at his own mind with the kind of immediate attention the text was pointing toward. Why do we so often mistake intellectual knowledge for wisdom? The thinking mind is seductive in its ability to create elaborate explanations and sophisticated frameworks. It gives us a sense of mastery and control, making us feel that we understand complex realities simply because we can discuss them fluently. But as Tokusan discovered, when life presents us with a direct challenge, conceptual knowledge often proves inadequate. The old woman's question was devastating in its simplicity. She wasn't asking for a philosophical discourse about the nature of time or consciousness. She was pointing directly to the immediate reality of Tokusan's experience. If there truly is no past, present, or future mind to be grasped, what exactly was seeking refreshment in that moment? This teaching appears constantly in modern life. We might read countless books about mindfulness, but still find ourselves lost in anxious thoughts during stressful situations. We could study relationship psychology extensively while remaining unable to listen deeply to our partner during conflict. We might understand the theory of non-attachment intellectually while still becoming upset when our plans don't unfold as expected. Zen master Dogen taught, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. True spiritual study leads us toward direct investigation of our immediate experience rather than accumulation of concepts about that experience. The rice cakes in the story represent the simple nourishment that comes from direct engagement with reality rather than abstract theorizing about it. When we're truly hungry, whether for food, understanding, or spiritual fulfillment, what feeds us is immediate presence, not clever explanations of presence. In meditation practice, we often encounter this same distinction. We can know a great deal about meditation techniques while having very little direct experience of the awareness those techniques are designed to reveal. The concepts point towards something that must be discovered through immediate investigation, not through more thinking about the concepts. The Buddha said, "However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them?" The old woman was inviting Tokusan to act upon the Diamond Sutra's teachings by applying them to his immediate situation, rather than carrying them around as intellectual possessions. Tonight, as you reflect on the knowledge and understanding you've accumulated, can you distinguish between what you know about and what you actually know? Is there some area of your life where intellectual understanding might be creating the illusion of wisdom while preventing genuine transformation? As the Buddha taught, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Sometimes the most profound teachings are the ones that leave us speechless, pointing us back towards the immediacy of our actual experience. Master Ryokan's mountain dwelling was as simple and humble as his lifestyle. A small hut, constructed with basic materials that provided adequate shelter without any pretense to permanence or grandeur. The structure reflected his philosophy of taking only what was necessary from the natural environment while remaining open to whatever changes the seasons and elements might bring. One spring, as the earth warmed and new life stirred throughout the mountain forests, something unexpected began happening beneath the wooden floorboards of the master's hut. Tiny bamboo shoots, following their ancient genetic programming to seek light and space for growth, started emerging from the soil below his living space. Most people, discovering this situation, would have immediately seen it as a problem requiring swift action. Bamboo is notorious for its vigorous growth and its ability to damage structures. Left unchecked, the shoots would certainly push up through the floorboards, creating holes and potentially compromising the integrity of the entire building. The conventional response would have been to cut away the bamboo before it could cause structural damage. But Master Ryokan saw the situation differently. Rather than viewing the emerging bamboo as an unwelcome intrusion or a threat to his shelter, he chose to work with the natural forces at play. Without hesitation, he began tearing up sections of his floorboards to create space for the bamboo shoots to grow freely toward the light they sought. As the weeks passed, the bamboo responded to his accommodation by growing with remarkable speed and vigor. The shoots rose higher and higher, soon reaching the ceiling of the small hut and pressing against the roof beams. Again, most people would have seen this as the point where drastic action became necessary. Either the bamboo had to be cut or the dwelling would be destroyed. Once again, Master Ryokan chose accommodation over resistance. He carefully removed sections of his roof to allow the bamboo to continue its upward growth, creating openings that let the shoots emerge into the open air above his living space. The bamboo responded by growing through the roof and continuing to reach toward the sky. The final result of this process was remarkable. Master Ryokan found himself living in a hut where living bamboo grew up through the floor and extended through the roof, creating a unique dwelling that was part human construction and part natural forest. Rather than seeing this as a compromised or damaged living situation, he embraced it as an enhancement that brought him into even more intimate contact with natural processes. Untroubled by what others might consider a highly irregular living arrangement, Master Ryokan simply continued his daily practices of meditation, study, and contemplation. He sat in zazen beneath the living bamboo that now shared his dwelling space, finding that their presence added a quality of natural aliveness and seasonal awareness that conventional architecture could never provide. The bamboo became his intimate companions, growing and changing with the seasons, rustling softly in the wind, and creating patterns of light and shadow that shifted throughout the day. What had begun as a potential problem had been transformed through his willingness to accommodate natural forces into an enhancement of his simple mountain life. As the Buddha observed, nothing is permanent except change. This teaching relates profoundly to our capacity for flowing with natural processes rather than rigidly defending our constructed plans and arrangements against the inevitable forces of growth and transformation. This ancient wisdom illuminates our typical approaches to unexpected changes in our carefully organized lives. Most of us invest tremendous energy in creating structures, physical, emotional, professional, social, that we then feel compelled to defend against any forces that might alter them. We treat change as disruption rather than opportunity, as problems to be solved rather than invitations to discover new possibilities. Master Ryokan's response to the bamboo demonstrates a radically different relationship with the unexpected. Rather than seeing the shoots as invasive problems threatening his security, He recognized them as natural expressions of life force seeking room to grow. His accommodation of their needs led to a living situation that was far more interesting and dynamic than his original static dwelling. Why do we typically resist natural processes of growth and change, even when they might lead to improvements in our circumstances? This resistance often stems from our attachment to predictability and our fear that any deviation from our plans will lead to chaos or loss of control. We prefer the security of familiar limitations to the uncertainty of organic development. The master's willingness to tear up his floorboards and modify his roof represents the kind of fundamental flexibility that authentic spiritual practice cultivates. Rather than defending his comfort zone against all modifications, he remained open to discovering what new forms of livability might emerge through cooperation with forces beyond his control. This story reveals the difference between accommodation and passive surrender. Ryokan wasn't simply accepting whatever happened without response. He was actively participating in creating solutions that honored both his need for shelter and the bamboo's need for growing space. His actions were both practical and deeply cooperative with natural processes. We can observe similar opportunities for creative accommodation in many areas of life. The parent whose carefully planned family routines are disrupted by a child's unexpected interests or needs. The business owner whose established procedures need modification to accommodate changing market conditions. The individual whose life plans are altered by unforeseen circumstances that could lead to entirely new possibilities. Zen practice cultivates what might be called adaptive wisdom, the ability to work creatively with whatever emerges, rather than rigidly defending predetermined structures against natural processes of change and growth. This requires a fundamental trust that flow and adaptation often lead to outcomes superior to our original fixed plans. The image of Master Ryokan meditating beneath living bamboo that grew through his dwelling represents a profound teaching about integration with natural rhythms. Instead of seeing his spiritual practice as something that required complete separation from natural processes, he discovered how accommodation of organic growth could enhance rather than compromise his contemplative life. This teaching also points us toward understanding the difference between problems and opportunities. The bamboo shoots initially appeared to threaten the master's shelter, but his willingness to work with them creatively transformed potential destruction into unusual enhancement. Our capacity to see challenges as invitations for creative response often determines whether difficulties become sources of growth or simply sources of stress. Additionally, our minds tend to assume that spiritual practice requires completely controlled environments free from unexpected intrusions. Master Ryokan's story suggests that authentic practice might actually be strengthened by learning to maintain inner peace while accommodating whatever natural forces emerge in our immediate environment. The story reveals how often our concepts of proper order and appropriate boundaries can blind us to possibilities for richer, more integrated ways of living. The master's hut, with bamboo growing through it, challenged conventional ideas about indoor and outdoor spaces, but created a unique form of dwelling that honored both human needs and natural processes. Beyond this, there emerges a teaching about the creativity that can emerge when we stop fighting against what wants to happen and instead ask how we might work with emerging forces to create something neither we nor they could have achieved independently. Tonight, as you consider areas of your life where unexpected changes or growth are challenging your established routines and structures, can you identify opportunities for creative accommodation rather than rigid resistance? What would it mean to tear up a few floorboards to make room for natural processes that might enhance rather than threaten your overall well-being? Buddha's wisdom reminds us, the wise find pleasure in water, virtue in mountains, and wisdom in forests. By learning to live in harmony with natural forces, rather than constant opposition to them, we discover forms of security and satisfaction that rigid control can never provide. The deep peace that comes from flowing with life, rather than constantly struggling against it. Now, let us rest here together in this final stillness. Find your most comfortable position and gently allow your eyes to close if they are not already. Take one last, slow, deep breath in, and as you breathe out, release a soft sigh, letting go of any remaining effort. Let your body be heavy, supported, and completely at ease. Bring your awareness, just for a moment, to the vast, quiet space of your mind. See it as a clear night sky. Thoughts may still drift by like faint clouds, but you are the sky, not the clouds. Rest as this spacious, open awareness. Now, feel into the center of your chest. Imagine a small, soft, warm ember glowing there. This is the warmth of your own kindness, your own good heart. Feel this warmth gently spreading through your body, a feeling of safety, of peace, of being at home with yourself. Finally, feel the weight of your entire body surrendering to gravity, held completely by the surface beneath you. You are safe, you are held, you are at peace. There is nothing more you need to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. Just this, just here, this quiet darkness, this gentle breath, this profound stillness. May you carry this peace with you as you drift into sleep. May your rest be deep, healing, and dreamless. May you awaken in the morning feeling restored, and may you remember, even for a fleeting moment, the vast and quiet space that is your true home. May you walk through your days with a lighter step and a softer heart, knowing you are always held by a grace far greater than your worries. And may the peace you have cultivated within yourself be a gift to all those you meet. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well.